the invisible surrounding the chosen. Do you recognize these spiritual signs? Have you ever felt like something invisible is guiding your steps, or that certain moments carry an energy that's impossible to ignore? Perhaps these are signs that the spiritual world is closer than you imagine. My friends, good morning and welcome to our channel, Portal Infinito. Let's begin this journey of self-discovery and personal growth together. Today we will unveil the mysteries of the spiritual world surrounding the chosen ones. There are signs that can reveal deep connections to the unseen, experiences that transcend the ordinary and open portals to a greater understanding of reality. Get ready to dive into stories, reflections, and revelations that may explain sensations, visions, or intuitions you may have experienced. And if you haven't yet, stay alert. The universe might be trying to speak to you. Before we continue, I'd like to ask you to share your testimonies and experiences in the comments, along with your prayer requests and intentions for blessings. This is a space where we connect with God and the universe in a community of faith and purpose. Your story can inspire others who are also seeking answers and strength in their journey. Don't forget to like this video so that this message can reach more people. And subscribe to the channel to receive content that strengthens your soul and illuminates your path. Together, we are stronger. Have you ever felt that something beyond the visible was around you, like a whisper in the silence or an energy you couldn't explain? There are moments when the world seems to reveal hidden secrets, as if reminding us that reality goes beyond what we can touch or see. Perhaps these are the first signs of a greater connection. For some, these experiences can be dismissed as coincidences. For others, they mark the beginning of a journey of profound discovery. We are not alone in this universe. The spiritual world around us watches, protects, and sometimes challenges us to see beyond the obvious. The chosen ones, those carrying a special purpose, frequently experience subtle yet powerful manifestations. These signs are not always easy to identify, but they have the power to transform lives. What if you were one of them? What if these signs were already present in your life? Just imagine waking up in the middle of the night feeling like something in the atmosphere around you has changed, or being in an ordinary place and suddenly overwhelmed by an unexplainable sense of protection or alertness. These are just examples of what many describe as interactions with the spiritual world. Some report vivid dreams that feel like direct messages. Others speak of premonitions that help them avoid danger or bring unexpected answers. These experiences are not random. They are invitations to open your eyes to a broader reality and understand your role in the grand divine plan. But how can you know if you're receiving a sign? And why do these experiences happen? Today, we'll explore 6 manifestations that may reveal your connection to the unseen. From sudden intuitions to encounters that defy logic, each sign carries a unique message. The first step is opening your heart to the unknown. Often we're so immersed in daily demands that we fail to notice what's happening behind the scenes of existence. The spiritual world operates subtly, waiting for us to be attentive to its gentle touches. Throughout history, accounts of people feeling the call of the invisible repeat themselves. From prophets who heard voices in the desert, to ordinary individuals whose lives were changed by extraordinary experiences. These encounters are not reserved for a select few. They can happen to anyone. The important thing is recognizing that every sign has a purpose. They don't appear to frighten or confuse us, but to guide and protect us. When the spiritual world approaches, it's because there's something to be revealed or a crucial step we need to take. Doubt is natural. After all, how can we know if it's real or just a fleeting impression? The answer lies in the repetition and intensity of the experiences. When the universe insists, it doesn't just knock on your door, it opens it. Are you ready to see what's on the other side? In this video, we'll delve deep into the unseen to uncover the signs surrounding the chosen ones. More than recognizing these signs, It's about understanding what they mean for your life and how they can transform your perception and purpose. I invite you to stay with me until the end, because the journey we'll embark on together may be the key to answers you didn't even know you were seeking. After all, the spiritual world doesn't make visits by chance. It manifests when we are ready to listen. Imagine walking down a familiar street and suddenly feeling an unexplainable shiver. You look around, but nothing seems out of place. Yet the feeling lingers, as if the air around you carries a message. This is one of the subtlest signs of the spiritual world, a vibration that speaks directly to the soul. The first sign many experience is heightened intuition. It's not just a hunch. It's a silent conviction guiding your choices. How many times have you felt that something didn't feel right and, by following your intuition, avoided a problem or made a wise decision? Another common sign is revealing dreams. Unlike ordinary dreams, these carry a depth that stays with you upon waking. Perhaps a voice says something important, or a symbolic image brings clarity to a dilemma. The spiritual world often uses dreams to communicate what we haven't yet noticed while awake. There are also recurring encounters with patterns or symbols. It could be a number appearing at critical moments, or a word you hear from different sources on the same day. These patterns are not coincidences. They're reminders that the universe is aligning pieces for a greater purpose. Many chosen ones report a sense of invisible protection in moments of danger. Imagine being about to cross the street and suddenly stopping for no reason, only to notice a speeding car moments later. These interventions feel almost miraculous, as if someone is watching over you. Invisible presences are also a powerful sign. It might feel like someone is beside you, even when you're alone. Instead of fear, these presences bring comfort or a sense of security. They remind us that we are never truly alone. Another intriguing sign is synchronicity, events so perfectly aligned that they defy logic. Think of wishing for an answer and, on the same day, encountering someone or something that provides exactly what you needed. The spiritual world communicates through these perfect alignments. The sixth sign is the ability to perceive emotions or energies in an amplified way. You walk into a room and immediately feel an emotional charge, even without knowing what happened there. This sensitivity is a gift for the chosen ones, allowing them to pick up on subtle vibrations around them. It's important to understand that these signs don't emerge as definitive proof, but as invitations. They ask us to look beyond the surface and embrace the idea that something greater is at work. Every experience, no matter how small it seems, has the power to bring us closer to our purpose. Consider this analogy. The spiritual world is like a gentle breeze that moves the leaves in a forest. You can't see it directly, but you feel its impact. The more attentive you are, the more you'll notice these subtle movements in your own life. Some say that the chosen ones are touched by the unseen because they carry a special mission. But this mission isn't necessarily grand in the eyes of the world. Sometimes it's simply being in the right place at the right time to positively impact someone's life. These signs are like beacons in the dark, illuminating our path when we need it most. The question is, are you paying attention? Are you? Or are you so consumed by daily distractions that you miss the universe's messages? The choice to listen or ignore is yours. By recognizing the signs of the spiritual world, you begin to see that life isn't just a series of random events. Every experience, no matter how ordinary it seems, carries a hidden meaning waiting to be discovered. It's as if the universe conspires to guide your steps toward what truly matters. The key lies in mindfulness. Modern life drowns us in stimuli, diverting our focus from what's essential. But when you take the time to observe, the signs become clearer. They're in the little things, the book that appears at the right moment, the advice from a stranger, or that moment of silence that speaks louder than 1,000 words. It's not about obsessively seeking answers, but being open to the unexpected. Imagine life as a giant puzzle. Spiritual signs are pieces that, when placed correctly, reveal a bigger picture. The more attentive you are, the easier it becomes to find the right spot for each piece. Cultivating a state of spiritual receptivity is essential. Practices like meditation, prayer, or simply moments of reflection help align your mind and heart with the unseen. The more attuned you are, the more natural it becomes to identify the signs the universe sends your way. But how do you differentiate a sign from a mere coincidence? The answer lies in the impact it has on you. A true sign resonates uniquely, bringing clarity, emotion, or even restlessness that compels you to act. It stands out, like a star in a cloudy sky. These signs aren't just for contemplation, they call for action. If you feel guided in a specific direction, trust that call. Often, the spiritual world shows us only the next step, not the entire path. Trust is essential to move forward, even without seeing the final destination. Remember that the chosen ones aren't perfect people, but those who say yes to the call, even in the face of uncertainties. They understand that their journeys are unique, and that the signs are like compasses, guiding them during moments of doubt and decision. As you progress on this journey, don't underestimate the power of sharing your experiences. Many around you may be going through something similar but are afraid to speak up or don't know how to interpret what they feel. Your story could be the key to awakening someone's awareness. It's also important to receive the signs with humility. They don't come to feed our ego, but to connect us to something greater. When you recognize that you are part of a divine plan, gratitude becomes the natural response to each spiritual experience that arises. Use these signs as reminders to live with purpose. Each day brings new opportunities to align your actions with the mission the universe has entrusted to you. Ask yourself, how can I use what I've received to positively impact my life and the lives of others? At its core, the signs are proof that you are not alone. Even in the most challenging moments, invisible forces are working in your favor. They don't eliminate challenges, but provide the support needed to face them with courage and faith. So the next time you feel an intuition, notice a pattern, or encounter something that defies logic, don't ignore it. Take a deep breath, reflect, and ask yourself, what is the universe trying to show me? Often the answer is closer than you think. When we look at the signs of the spiritual world, we realize that life isn't just about survival, but about evolution. Every intuition, dream, and synchronicity is an invitation to walk closer to who we truly are and the purpose we carry. The chosen ones aren't defined by titles or external achievements, but by their sensitivity to hear the unseen call. They understand that the spiritual world doesn't act randomly. It acts intentionally, offering light in the darkest moments and guidance at crossroads. Perhaps you're still wondering, am I one of the chosen ones? The answer lies within you, in the experiences that resonated throughout this video, in the signs you may have ignored, or in the moments when you felt something greater guiding your steps. Recognizing the signs is just the beginning. The true power lies in acting on them. Allow yourself to trust what you feel and see how your life begins to align with a force that seems greater than everything. This alignment is the start of a profound transformation. When you decide to pay attention, the spiritual world responds. It not only lights the way, but also strengthens your ability to face challenges. The signs don't promise ease, but ensure that you'll never be alone in your journey. It's not necessary to seek grand events to feel this connection. Often, the most powerful messages come in the simplest forms: a comforting word, an unexpected encounter, or that unexplainable sense of peace that suddenly fills you. Remember that being chosen isn't a privilege, but a responsibility. You are called not only to receive, but to share. Every step you take on your spiritual journey also illuminates the path for those around you. Doubt is normal and even necessary because it keeps us humble. But don't let it paralyze your action. Each time you listen to the call and take a step, the universe moves with you, opening new possibilities and revealing what was once hidden. Before we conclude, I invite you to reflect. What signs have you been ignoring? What unexplainable experiences have marked your life? It may be time to revisit them and understand what they were trying to tell you. The answer could change your perspective. The spiritual world is always around us, but it's up to us to choose whether we want to see it. It speaks to those willing to listen and reveals itself to those who open their hearts to the possibility of the unseen. The journey of the chosen isn't about glory, but about purpose. It's about being in the right place at the right time and allowing your life to become an instrument for something greater. Are you ready to embrace this mission? I invite you to remain attentive, seek connection, and share your own experiences with the spiritual world in the comments. Remember, every story has the power to inspire, and perhaps yours is the sign someone needs to awaken. My dear friends, we've reached the end of today's journey, but the learning and connection continue. Today, we explored the signs of the spiritual world and how they can transform our perception of reality. Every intuition, dream, and synchronicity is a reminder that we are part of something greater. If you feel that these signs have already appeared in your life, trust them. And if you haven't recognized them yet, open yourself to notice. The universe always speaks, but we only hear it when we're ready. Remember, the chosen ones are not defined by titles, but by their openness to the unseen. Before you go, I invite you to share in the comments your own experiences with the spiritual world. Your story could be the inspiration someone else needs. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and activate the bell. Together we can build a community of search, growth, and transformation. Thank you so much for being with me today. See you in the next video, where we'll continue to explore the mysteries of the universe, the soul, and the human heart. May your journey be illuminated by wisdom and love.